My name is Jeff Knotts. I am the Director of Solutions Consulting here at Utopia. Today we're going to talk about Information Steward and how you gain power over your data with Information Steward. Let's start out a little bit of commercials about who Utopia is. We were founded in 2003 near Chicago. We're a leading enterprise data solutions firm with a proprietary methodology around enterprise data lifecycle management. Basically what that means is that we're experts in data and data alone. We don't care where it came from, we don't care where it's going. We're there to make sure that it's in the right format, it's fit for use, it ends up where it's supposed to be in the right place and useful to gain information in your industry. Now, why do you need a company like Utopia and tools like Information Steward from SAP? Well, as the amount of information continues to explode on a daily basis, customers are faced with many challenges to govern, integrate, manage access data, analyze. And these volumes have exploded over the years. Also, the velocity with which business users want that information is increasing. They want it right now, and they want it correct. In the past, decisions were based on information that were days old, weeks old, or nightly old. Now they want that information at their fingertips. Much of the information is either conflicting or it's not fit for use. So that results in poor business decisions. The old adage, garbage in, garbage out, still continues to haunt us today after this many years in the IT industry. So Information Steward is a tool from SAP that's used during the process of data quality and data governance. So data quality, we'll talk about that real quickly, is both reactive and proactive. It's reactive in the sense that you have to start somewhere. You want to go look at your database and make sure that your current data, might be customers, vendors, products, that data is valid. It's clean and it's fit for use. So one of the first things you want to do is you want to do an assessment of that data. You want to find out whether the fields are populated, whether they're formatted properly. Once you figure all of that out, usually there's a remediation process. And if you look at our boxes here, there's two boxes around our circle, and the circle denotes that data quality is a circular process. There is no starting point and stopping point. It continues to go. Data ages over time. New mistakes are entered in. People get creative. You want to monitor that to make sure that you catch the new mistakes, that you're able to validate and fix them. And the way you often validate and fix them, if you're an SAP shop, is using the tool data services. Now today we're not going to talk a lot about data services, but it is key to note that data services and Information Steward are very integrally interconnected, if you will. The engine that runs Information Steward is the data services engine. The repositories are a common layer of repository that allows you to share metadata. That allows you to look at things such as impact and lineage, from where your data came from to where it's going. And we'll talk about that a little more as we get into the functionality of Information Steward. The SAP Enterprise Information Management Solutions are listed on the left and right-hand side. It's a number of tools. What we want to talk about, though, is actually the process of the data quality of getting data clean and keeping it clean. So before you can get it clean, again, I alluded to the fact that you need to do some analysis and find out what's wrong with the data. Once you figure out what's wrong with the data, you have a governance process which starts putting together rules and procedures that will clean the data. So after you've done that process, you get the data clean. Now you want to come back and you want to monitor the data. You've moved it to its new state. You might want to validate it or audit it first. In your source system, the codes of 1, 2, and 3 need to be translated to A, B, and C in your target system. It's a perfect tool to look at both the source and target and make sure you have a one-to-one relationship between the two and the translation is done properly. Also, people are creative over time and they continue to enter in new errors within your database. So you'll want to continually monitor and look at this data over time to make sure the new errors are not being introduced. A TWI survey a few years ago showed that within 6 months of going live on a new system, that 20% of your data is inaccurate. Now, why could that be? Well, the same study showed that 75% of all errors initiated into a database was done by the company's own employees. Now, that might seem really odd when we're talking about governance and that the business actually knows their data better than anybody. But as you're typing things in, when you know them, such as your address, your phone number or something, most times you're typing very quickly. You're not going to look down and double check yourself. If you have something in your system that will double check for you, you have the ability to stop that problem. If you don't, you're going to enter that problem into the system, and later you have to come back in some sort of batch fashion, figure out what the right answer is. Here's the wheel of data quality we discussed as an interactive and reactive mode. So proactive is creating a data quality firewall that I just discussed, allowing you to stop data errors before they're entered in. Reactive is going back and cleaning that in more of a batch fashion after it's already happened. You want to be proactive if you're a mature data governance organization. So this slide shows you the correlation between data services and information steward. And the key here is, if you look at this simplistic slide, that you have one solution that provides data integration, data quality, text data processing, a server that executes everything, profiling, monitoring. So all of this data services engine runs this. It's a single runtime architecture. It's got unified metadata. The key at the top here is there's two different interfaces. One is a technical interface for remediating data and manipulating and moving it from point A to point B and transforming it. The other is the business user interface, which is information steward, which allows data experts to come in and actually test data, write rules about the data, monitor the data over time. And we'll get into the functionalities of each of those pieces. So we're going to focus now on information steward and the functionality of information steward. And I'm going to go through a number of slides and explain the functionality and the things that it does and how you manage your data. And then I'm going to give you a small demo overview of the live system and show you what I just talked about. There are basically 5 tabs when you log into Information Steward. There's Data Insight, Metadata Management, Metapedia, Cleansing Package Builder, and My Work List. Now, Data Insight is near and dear to my heart. It was created by a company initially called FirstLogic. FirstLogic was a leading data quality provider a number of years ago, who was then purchased by Business Objects, who was then purchased by SAP. I actually sat on the initial design team for Data Insight many years ago as an employee of FirstLogic, so this tool is near and dear to my heart. It allows you to create business rules, validate your data, and monitor the data over time. Another product that used to be a standalone product that was merged in was Metadata Manager. So for metadata management, it allows, since there is a common core underneath of these tools, you can easily track and automatically track where data comes from and where it goes. So if you ultimately have an end-to-end stack and you're going to end up with a dashboard and reporting, you're going to want to follow your data from its inception, what happened to that data, all the way to the report. Subsequently, if you're looking at a dashboard and you don't trust a metric for some reason, you have the ability to click through and actually come back and find out how that metric was created, because you're going back through the metadata. So you can go back and find out how things were added up and know within seconds whether that's valid or not valid. If it's not valid, maybe you have an issue with your actual data, but at least you'll know that the rules are correct. Third function is the Metapedia. It's basically a Wikipedia-like interface for internal use. It's a business taxonomy, if you will. And you can import and export using Excel. You can link out to other terms and to other tools, and I will actually go through a slide and show you a little bit of that functionality. The Cleansing Package Builder is another functionality in this tool that has an integration with data services. That company I talked about, FirstLogic, was a data quality company, and their algorithms for doing data quality, parsing, cleansing, standardizing, and formatting are over 25 years old. Those algorithms were created mostly around business partner type data, people, places, dates, tax IDs, social securities, those sort of things. Now, those algorithms have been used successfully for many, many, many years. As the IT organization and as business organizations get more mature, you look beyond your customer and vendor list. You start looking at product catalogs, SKUs, and those sort of data that's not typically out there in the industry. So what SAP has done is they've extrapolated the rules and the empirical data sources from the engine, and they allow you to use the cleansing package builder to create your own rules. So let's say that you wanted to parse some products, and say a glove, and there's different attributes about the glove. You have the ability to use the profiler to go through and break those attributes down and automatically start using a wizard to create rules to parse that data and standardize it. Final thing is the work list. The work list has the ability, it's an administrative tool gives you the ability to approve rules. If some rules in Information Steward are created and they're going through the process, if somebody has to approve them before they go into production, that's where that happens. As well as there's an interface that if you have duplication in your customer, vendor, or product list, you can list it in here, and you can have a steward go through and decide which ones are going to be your master record and which pieces of the data to keep. Now, the goal of Information Steward is to have metrics about your data quality. And this is a data quality scorecard. Some call it a data quality dashboard. But it is simply a scorecard. These scorecards have different quality dimensions they're measuring. They have an overall quality score, and you can notice they're tracking trends. You can see if your trend of data is getting better or worse over time. It's a good way for an executive or the business that owns the data to quickly come in and keep track of that. Within these quality dimensions, you can also do things such as weighted scoring. So in accuracy, if I have my accuracy of a customer, if I decide I need to have a name, an address, city, state, and zip, and email to make a customer, I have the ability to weight each of those different dimensions a little differently in my overall score. So it's very robust in the way you can score things. If I'm a marketer and I'm doing email marketing, then the email is much more important to me than the phone number or the address. So my metric may weigh the email higher for when I'm trying to score mine. Now the quality dimensions, there's some out of the box. I think there's 7 of them. You also have the ability to do custom ones. As you can see here, I believe the business relevance that's showing in here is a custom one. Accuracy, completeness, conformity, integrity are typical industry standard type dimensions. They are defined nicely in the documentation, so you have a definition of what each of those mean. So this is just looking a little into the interface, and I will dig into it a little more, but it's a point-and-click type interface. You can drill down the values. So the very first thing you do is called a column profile. And that sort of looking at layers of an onion. You're peeling back the first layer. You're looking for things such as minimum, maximum. How much is the field filled out? Is it blank? Are there all zeros? So you're just starting to look. You don't really have an understanding of what's going on with your data yet. You're getting that initial introspection and allows you to dig in and drill in a little further as you see issues. In this field, you notice maybe they're not supposed to be null, and 51% of them are. So one rule could simply be that this is not allowed to be null, and flag me and tell me if it is. You have other types. There's semantic knowledge-based profiling. So if you have things like business partner type data, and you might have a field that tells you that you have, it's an address or it's a company name. Company names are always good ones, or it just says name. And as you look into that, you'll find out that, you know what, in there we have names, we have contacts, we might even have email information. So before I go through and do a remediation process, I need to know that a field that seems to be clearly defined actually is for mixed use. And I need to go in there and pull that data out that would be invalid if left there and put it in the right place. I want my email addresses to go in the email fields. I want my firm names to go in the firm name field. I want contacts broken out in the first, middle, last. So understanding that will allow me to create the rules to get that data where it needs to be and fit for use. After that initial introspection, once you understand what's wrong with the data and once you understand what the rules are with the data, there's an interface to actually create these rules. These are more complex rules. Column A plus column B must equal column C. Or ship date has to be greater than order date. Things like that that you can test. This is looking for a format of a phone number. It has to be 3 numerics followed by a dash, followed by 3 numerics, followed by a dash, followed by 4 numerics. If it's not, it's going to count against it and let me know that I have errors. Once you create the rules, the end goal here was the first screen that I showed you. We're trying to create a data quality scorecard. This is where the rules are created and where you group them under their dimensions. you see accuracy, business relevance, completeness. Excuse me. These type of rules are created. You give it a spectrum of what is valid and what is not valid, and that's part of a governance process. You can see here under this one called views that it's got a 9.19, and that's green. So not sure what the overall scale was, but that is in what's acceptable. Red is obviously the universal color for the failing the rule. So you would want to look into those and see why that score of 5.12, which equates to 51.2%. So in the dashboard, it just shows you some of the different metrics that I talked about from the last slide that actually had the same information on it. So the second part we're going to talk about now is metadata management. So that was data insight. That was the profiler. That is where you're going to spend most of your time in a tool like this to manage your data. But under metadata management, you have the ability we discussed before it automatically will start tracking when you're linking systems, tables together. It looks into the data services repository. It tells you what sort of ETL logic happened to it. It allows you to do impact and lineage. Impact happens from an IT perspective. I have a city field in my table, and I need to expand it. It's only 25 bytes. I need to make it 50. I need to understand what am I going to impact if I make this change. In the past, oftentimes the change was made, things were broken, people come back. You worked through the issues, you took it into production, and 6 months later it breaks again. Why? Because there's this little known system that only runs 2 times a year, and you didn't test it, and this is the one time it ran, and it doesn't work now. The report doesn't work. So you want to find out why did that break? Well, with impact analysis, you can try that up front and make sure you know exactly every place this city field is being used. Every table, every ETL job, every report. Subsequently, I've already explained lineage to you. If you're looking at a report and you don't understand that number, where did it come from? It allows you to look backwards through your data and find out where the data came from and what happened to it along the way. There are multiple places. If you look at the bottom left here, this is what a lineage and impact report looks like. It shows you where it goes. If you hover over the little blue boxes in there, it will actually show you what happened to it. You can actually get to this from a number of places. You can get to it from a data quality scorecard. You can get to it from dashboards and reports and BI. You can open up Data Insight or Information Steward and actually go to the tab in there and go straight to it. Now we'll talk a little bit about Metapedia. Metapedia is a business terms glossary. So if you have some columns in a database that you want to link to a business term, you can put the business term in here and then link it back out to that column, so you can click on it and go right to the metadata of that column. You can click out to external sources for Wikipedia. As you can see, as they're doing here, they're going to link out to Wikipedia to let you know what annuity means. So this is a place to collaborate, usually between business and IT, and different functional groups within the business. So you know what a customer is in your area, and you can come in here and link to that and show what data elements you need to define a customer or any other type of functional area. This just shows the way of setting it up and the different things you can add and the formatting and the links out to related information. So it's a very robust Wikipedia-like tool to use internally for your business processes. Talk a little bit about the cleansing package builder. So on the left, this is on the top here. It shows you the Office Max multipurpose paper. Using Information Steward to go through and analyze this, break out the different pieces, and then ingest it into an empirical data source along with the rules, we're able to categorize, standardize, parse this data into their proper taxonomy. Product category, size, manufacturer type, weight. It's very complex when the data is not name and address type data. So Cleansing Package Builder gives you the ability to actually create these rules in a very fast and bulk fashion. This is what the interface looks like from Information Steward, where you start creating these rules. You're doing it from the results of your analysis. It will actually help you use a wizard to build these rules. I'm going to show you the very last tab when we get into the actual tool, but I just want to talk a little bit about how you use Information Steward to control your data in a governance organization. So with the latest version of Information Steward, they actually created a linkage into the NetWeaver MDM. They create views that you can go in and you can profile, assess the quality of your MDM data. You can do the continuous monitoring and you can create a scorecard on it. So in here it shows you that this is the interoperability between Information Steward Data Services and NetWeaver. You're going to hear that interoperability term a lot because once you discover you have issues with Information Steward, you need to remediate them. The remediation process might be a manual process. It might be a single record where something needs to be looked up and you go into the MDM system. Or it might be a bulk process where you want to go through the MDM system and make a change on a lot of different rows at once. And to do that, you would use data services after you've discovered that information using Information Steward. Subsequently, there's also functionality integrated into SAP Master Data Governance solution in their ERP system. Master Data Governance integrates with Information Steward. It allows you to, it has pre-built scorecards. You can integrate the failed record database. So as you set up the rules, and there are some out-of-the-box rules created for this, once something fails the rules, you can click into the failed records and look at them. You can actually create a change request directly from the highlighted records. That change request will send off to MDG, and the data steward there will receive that and act upon it accordingly. So as questions, we're going to hold those for last because I'm going to step out and actually go into a demo. If you just give me one moment. Okay, so while I pause there, I went ahead and logged onto the system. It is a browser-based system. You notice at the top there are the 4 tabs. I'm in Data Insight. There's Metadata Management, Metapedia, Cleansing Package Builder, and My Work List. So we start out, again, we begin with the end in mind. The goal here is to have a data quality scorecard. So I have a couple different domains of data. I have my customer master and I have my material master. And I have different quality dimensions that I looked at. As you hover over these, it will tell you the different scores that were set up. It also, you notice it says a cost. Cost can be derived in a number of ways. Could be that if you have a data defect and you have a manual stewarding programming process, you can do an average of how long it takes to actually fix an error. And you can assign a cost to that. Cost also might be associated with how much business bad data is costing you. For instance, I couldn't ship X amount of orders last week and that cost us this much in actual revenue or in actual costs associated with that. So there's a couple ways of doing that. So you can actually quantify and look at how much your data defects are going to cost you. As I mentioned before, to get to this point, I go up here and I'll drop down into the workspace. So right now we're going to focus on Data Insight. I will go through Metadata Management and the rest of them briefly in a couple of moments. But as you open it, you see that I have the connections that were set up by the administrator. I'm connected to a staging database, an ECC system, and I have some different views. But if I go through here and I look at this staging database, you can see that there's some information available around a couple of these. And I'll open this up, and as you hover over this, it will tell me some summary information. It will tell me the last time that I actually ran this. It will tell me that I did content type. So again, down in content type here is where you actually have the ability to tell what type of data this is. So in the person, if I click on that, it will come over here and show me that 93% of that field we think has an actual individual name in it. 14% might have a street name, and 1% might have a city or a last line. So for the most part, this field is being used for its proper use. So this is very helpful to show you that when you have mixed fields. Also, you see this other little icon over here. So this tells me that 252 of the 274 rows of the title are blank. Well, that's fine for this data. The tool doesn't really understand what we're going to use the data for. It's just telling me some information about it. Again, you see some things in here such as minimums and maximums. things float to the top on minimums and maximums typically. So you'll find, if you look at the phone number, you notice here that one of them is represented, the minimum has parentheses and spaces. The maximum here does not. So I've got a couple of formats. I'm missing some things. So what do I want to know about that? If I go over here and I look, I can see that there's patterns. There's 6 patterns in this phone number field. The interesting thing here is that 56% of my data is blank. I can't do anything about that within this file. I need to change some sort of process to start gathering that information. So I know I have a business process I need to deal with. I also see that 41% of the data that's left actually has a format with the parens and the numbers and the space. Typically, data is, as I click into this, you see how it drills in. It shows me my phone number field over here. If I go into the next one down here, it'll show me the phone number that has extension information built in. So let's go back to the top one, and we're going to make the assumption, not an assumption. I know this is the format that my data is expected to come in, nothing else. So if I'm in here, and I've discovered that in the column profiling portion, again, where it's the first layer of the onion, I discovered what I want my rule to be. So if I come up here and I click on Create Rule, you'll notice that it pops up a question here that asks me if I want to bind this rule. Now, I'll briefly explain that. Binding a rule means I've created a generic rule. And my generic rule says I'm looking at a phone number field and it should fit this pattern. If it doesn't, it fails. This rule can be used for any place that I have data that has a phone number field. So in order to use this rule over again, I just bind it, connect it to my new columns. This rule is almost ready to go as is. I just have to tell it who I want to approve. And I got a rule approver, and I have to give it a quality dimension. And we will call this conformity to make sure it conforms to its proper value. You have the ability to test that. You can run it across all of the data, or you can just test it on a single record. When you're done here, you can also validate it. Well, the rule has errors. I was going to say it should validate because the wizard created what kind of errors would be in the wizard. However, the error is a user error. You give it a name, and then you can save and close. That's how the rules are created. Then these rules are wrapped into the dashboards that go back and show you your quality dimensions. That we showed a moment ago. We have a slow internet connection. So secondly, here it is. So now, let's talk about metadata management real quick. Metadata management has the ability to start looking through the data and track impact and lineage. You can see that we have multiple business intelligence systems in here, data integration systems. We have Power Designer for data modeling, data insight, relational databases. So you just go in here and define, and then it goes in here and you have the ability to start looking through the data and create impact and lineage. It takes a couple moments, so I won't actually go through it. But as I go to click in here, start showing you the metadata within your system. How many jobs, what's in a job, how many data flows, what tables are in a data flow, columns, and then if these columns actually go anywhere or connect to a dashboard, you can actually check the impact of what they would have if you change them. Metapedia is that tool that allows you to look at your business layer. So here we have information for customer master, which is an SAP domain, and under each of that you can see that we have the different segments within it. We also have imported the codes from a migration tool set that tells you which fields are mandatory, which fields have lookups in SAP, which fields have format test. And all of those rules can be created in information and data insight and also linked to in Metapedia. Cleansing package builder is the part where I told you that you can actually go in and create different cleansing rules and parsing rules. And finally, my work list gives you the ability to go in here and I have a rule that needs to be approved, and I could reject it, I can test it, I can approve it. If I approve it, it's able to go into the actual production database and actually the production repository to be tested against any other part numbers that need this lookup value. Also, any of the rules created in Data Insight, this is a key point here, any of the rules created from the workspace can actually be exported into another project as a file or to a data services repository. So think about that. If I've got a source system, and like before I said I have 1, 2, and 3 in a field, and I need to translate it to an ABC, I've created a rule in here that says if it's not ABC, then it's a problem. I can export that rule. That's my if logic for the data remediation person. They know if it's A, B, and C. If it's not A, B, and C, it needs to be A, B, and C to make it that. So you can also use things like Metapedia to do that collaboration. So I've actually gone through every bit of the tool as well as the PowerPoint information. I'd like to actually open it up for questions at this point.
Does this tool support CRM, SRM, and APO along with ECC?
Yes, that connection was just a name. So it has the native connectivity to all of the SAP modules with the ability to go in and profile that data.
Okay.
Yes.
Can you pull fields from SAP ECC and APO systems to create rules? For example, to see if you have the correct data in the ECC or in ECC matches the data in APO, i.e. rounding values. For instance, A in ECC should be B in APO. Is this possible even though the fields have different names? Ideal mainly with product.
Yes, it is possible. There's a number of ways to handle that. So there's other types of profiling. We basically went through the beginning, but there's some, there's dependency, redundancy. You can create views that will pull these two together and allow you to compare them. So there, yes, there's a number of ways of doing that without understanding the logic a little further. To know the exact way, there's about 3 that I can think of.
Okay. Do you have to have data services in order to use Information Steward?
No, you do not have to have data services to use Information Steward. I told you that they were well integrated and they were cooperating. However, if you purchase just Information Steward, you get everything you need to run Information Steward alone. So many organizations I've found will come in and they'll embark on any initiative and start by getting a profiling tool to understand what that initiative entails before they spend the money on the tool. So there's often a use for this. Also, for companies that maybe outsource their data processing, they want to monitor and be able to validate that they're getting what they pay for. So you can put that on top of your database and actually do the rules, and you're never going to maybe clean it up. You're just going to report back to the company that runs your data.
How long does it take to learn Information Steward?
With about 2 days of hands-on and somebody mentoring you, you're going to know the basic functionality and features of the tool. It's going to get into how complex your rules are going to be. So it can be, so after the first couple of days, you're very proficient with the tool and hands-on. You may need a little help with some of the scripting if you've got really complex rules, but it's a very intuitive tool, and it's made to put in the hands of a business user because it's read-only. It doesn't change the data. It allows the person who understands the data to collaborate with the IT organization who's going to change it and provide them with the rules and the knowledge up front.
Who are the targeted users for this tool?
So the targeted users are a couple groups, but mainly it is a business user or a data steward that understands the data, has some basic skills around maybe some SQL or Excel macros to be able to write through the more complex rules. But it's giving the tool in the hands of somebody who actually understands and owns the process for the data. They may not own the actual remediation of the data, but they own the data. And so you give this tool to them and allow them to do the introspection and discover the rules that need to be applied. It's also good for from an IT perspective. I use it on a daily basis to go through and validate results of things that I've run in data services, to look at things before I go into data services from a perspective of what do I have to do, and also be able to export some of the rules that I've created here over into data services. So it's a twofold, but the biggest bang for the buck is from the business to being able to collaborate with the IT.